Hello, ladies and gentlemen. If you are seeing me right now, that means that this is a delayed version of the Polypompous or Pompously Political Podcast. Podcast is just a little bit pompous, if you know what I mean. Of course, I am always yours truly, co-host Jimmy. Change it up this week. Joined by gallant co-host
Scott.
Hey. What was it?
Gallant co-host Scott.
Ooh, beautiful. There we go. You did it in a nice, sexy, sultry kind of way, you know?
I do what I can, you know.
Co-host Scott. Like, like I expect you to introduce the slow jam at any moment. Now, with the delicate sounds. Kenny
I don't have enough baritone to do that.
You gotta get the grovel in there, Scott, like you need it.
I need another 15 years of smoking cigarettes to do that. But no thanks, I'll pass on that.
Are you saying I have a smoker voice? Is that what that
No, I'm
is?
saying if you want me to have that gravel, I'm gonna need 15 more years of smoking.
Just watch The Dark Knight about 20 more times while trying to practice. You know, your best Batman voice. You'll get it, man.
Why do you want to kill me?
Yeah, there you go. That's beautiful. See, you don't need to smoke. Just think Batman. Now,
Want me to announce the news in that voice?
Yeah.
Now, please in the news.
It's beautiful. So, you know, Scott, there's two things that I hate in this world. Let me tell you.
Republicans?
Here, go ahead and guess which one of those things is.
Republicans?
Well, close.
Mormons?
No.
Conservatives?
Even closer. Get warmer.
Extreme conservatives?
Yes. Extreme conservatism without an inkling as to why they are extreme conservatives. That's what I hate. That's the first thing I hate. That's the first thing that's on the agenda to talk about, of course. Your dog
Good.
is sick, by the way.
Oh, yeah. He's going down. That's good, because I had a good 10-minute rant in the shower the other day on this exact topic.
Awesome.
I'm prepared.
Were you like the Coney 2012 guy? You're ranting to yourself in the shower? It's all a lie! And, Melissa's
I
like,
do my best thinking in the bathroom in one of three various states. So.
Yeah, that's when Facebook happens. That's when Facebook magic happens, is the bathroom. I can't say I've argued with myself in the shower, but I've definitely contemplated in the shower. And then 30 minutes later, after sitting in the shower, and my wife's like, "Why the fuck are you taking such a long shower?" And I'm like, "Well, I can't just ponder the universe in like 5-10 minutes, so it'll take a little bit longer."
My wife's gotten to the point where she'll walk in and either be like, "Busted," or "You're talking to yourself again?" Talking to the smartest person in the room.
Or both, huh?
Yep. So why is it that extreme conservatives are pissing you off?
Well, Scott, because they say dumb things. They say dumb things.
They say really dumb things.
You know, one of those things, obviously, you know, I could talk about all the dumb things that Donald Trump has said lately, but the thing is, like I was telling you earlier, Scott, Donald Trump is like the clown from It, in that if you put more fuel on the fire, the more dangerous and more realistic he is, right? You know, in that movie, he was like, "It's just battery acid," and they spray the aerosol on him and stuff. It's the power of imagination, and so Donald Trump is just so ridiculous. He's so far off the reservation as far as conservatism that I don't even want to really give him the time of day, other than to say, "Go fuck yourself."
And I think he is the embodiment of the extreme conservatism that is conservative but doesn't know why he's conservative. He's just conservative because he thinks that's where most of the votes are going to be.
They're just angry. They want to take their country back, but they don't even know to take their country back from what? Obama?
I could see Trump being just as liberal as he is conservative if he thought that he could win as a liberal.
Right. You know, this is the summarized version of who Donald Trump is. He is a white, entitled, rich person who is surrounded himself by yes men. So nobody's ever told him he's wrong. So he's always going to think he's right in every situation. And when you have that sort of combination, you have a dangerous combination of just stupidity and fucking arrogance. And that's what I see oftentimes with the extreme conservatism movements, Tea Party, and so forth, is that they're unable to listen to reason when it comes to issues. And one, of course, segueing into to Mike Huckabee is one of those individuals that I classify in this category. Mike Huckabee said he would deny abortion to an 11-year-old rape victim.
Now, what this was, this was a real case in like Argentina or something, where an 11-year-old girl, she was 10 at the time, was raped and became pregnant. Right. And the question, was asked, would you provide, abortion in that case? And he still said no. He tried to justify it in some extreme conservative way with, I still understand that this is a horrible situation, but, I'm looking at the life of the child, and gave an example of one of his friends was going to have an abortion and didn't, and now that kid's like a rocket scientist or something, figured out how to feed like 100,000 people, he's doing great stuff, and which is a really terrible example. That's like, well, we'll hit that later. Anyways, that's a terrible example.
Right.
But we're talking about an 11-year-old girl whose body isn't even fully developed yet, and is now going to go through this. That's absurd. That's being conservative simply to be conservative without really thinking about what you're saying. Like, if that was your 11-year-old daughter, would you still go, you know what, I'm concerned about the life of the child? Well, which child?
That's the other aspect of it, is the hypocrisy to a lot of these individuals. Pro-traditional marriage, yet they've had Donald Trump's on his, fourth marriage? Mm-hmm. Yet he's pro-traditional marriage. You have these Republican congressmen that are pro-traditional marriage that have affairs up the ass. You have the thing about it is the Republican mantra is do what we say, not what we do.
Right.
And it's ridiculous. I just pulled up, or I had them up, and then I accidentally hit the little X thing, so I'll need a moment. But I have some stuff. The apparent sanest individual in the presidential Republican going for the presidential nomination is Jeb Bush, and his stance on abortion will blow your mind.
Okay.
So while I'm getting that up, if you've got anything to add on that.
You mentioned affairs. We can do a quick news topic real quick.
Okay.
Quickly, with the quick and the quickness. Have you heard of the website Ashley Madison?
Ooh, yeah, I have. I'm not a frequenter, so if you're looking for me on the list of names.
So this is the website that basically the motto is "Life's short, have an affair," right. Which is abominable. But so they got hacked, and their list of customers or clients or whatever you want to call them was taken. That list has now been released. So if you have had an affair through Ashley Madison, your secret's out. You're kind of fucked. Which kind of begs the question, the fuck did you get married in the first place?
Right.
If you're going to have an affair, you obviously were ready for the marriage. Or the marriage has gotten to a point where you should probably just walk away from it. Yeah, it's not doing you any good anyways. Now you're going to go through this whole world of trouble because you wanted to... it's just...
Well,
I can't stand people that can justify stuff like that.
Here's my... I'm going to surprise you on this, Scott. Here's my thoughts on this. Okay? Now, cheating, I do not condone it. Having affairs, I do not condone it. Myself, I don't have affairs. Bottom line. It's a lot of work to have an affair, and I'm a lazy individual. It's not that I don't find people attractive. It's just I'm just lazy. I'm like, you know what? I have my wife. I love her, and that's the bottom line of it. I don't need to work outside of that. Um, but on that topic, the list of names that are on there, how many of those people were people that like were bored at 3 o'clock in the morning, probably looking at some Pornhub or something like that, and then did they see an Ashley Madison ad and they're like, well, I get to chat with real women? Okay, cool. And then they plug in their information in there, obviously not thinking of the consequences of their actions. So now they're on the list of names of people that frequent Ashley Madison because they put their information in the system.
Well, it has such an overwhelming presence on the porn sites. I know when I go to porn sites, um, every link that I click it immediately opens in a new window, and then the page that it was on goes to Ashley Madison.
Right,
Like
right.
that's how ingrained these sites are, and how much of a reminder it is there. And when you're going through the site, there's ads all over the place for all kinds, not just Ashley Madison, but all kinds of other affair sites and hookup sites.
Right.
It's everywhere. You can't get away from it on those sites.
So that's my other point is that it's so highly marketed, how it's so pervasive in every aspect of the internet at this point that yes, it's a taboo sort of thing, but how much of that is an individual who has been relentlessly marketed at? You know what I mean? Like, to a certain extent, advertising plays an effect. Hence why we don't have the freaking Joe Camel anymore, because it was a cartoon character that was marketed to a certain extent towards people that shouldn't be smoking, aka kids, right? That's why you're not allowed to have cartoon characters smoking cigarettes. And we don't even have television ads for cigarettes anymore, anyways. But there's a big thing, a big push about cartoons and stuff like that, smoking cigarettes, is because advertising, human beings by nature, by our design, are suggestive. And specifically when it comes to natural bodily functions like, having sex, thinking about sex. So when you plant that seed in somebody's mind, yes, to a certain extent, it's the consumer that ultimately makes the decision, but how much of that is the influence of the advertisement? You know what I mean? And so it's
But
like, yeah,
there's
you may have a
still,
problem.
I can see that kind of logic up to a point, and that
Okay.
point stops when you agree to meet somebody. At that point, you're crossing that line. Um,
Oh, for sure, for sure. Once you take that step off the internet, that's a different whole other ball game, and then that
so
person is definitely liable for it.
right, so then there's, I guess the separation here in the names that are being released. You're gonna have the smaller than, much smaller than a half, who use it for what you're talking about, just to talk to somebody or to see pictures and or videos. Maybe they're really into amateur stuff, and that's
Or they're just
amateur
curious
heaven.
to see if any of their neighbors are on there. I mean, I won't lie. I'm sure I've gone to Ashley Madison at least once to go, I wonder if anybody in my neighborhood, because Pocatello's a small town. And, so word's going to get out, hey, I saw you on Ashley Madison the other night. Really? Really? What'd you think? You know what I mean? Like, how many
That's
people would
that's not creepy at all.
That's the conversations we have in Idaho, Scott. Hey, I saw you on Ashley Madison last night, eh? Because
And
we're all
I'm sure many people have done that, but that's going to be a small minority of the names that are going to be released. Because to get to that point, you have to go through the registration process, and if it's, I would imagine that there's some type of trial period there where you have
right.
limited access for free, and then that runs out, and you have to pay to do anything else. So anybody who has gone to that point of paying for that service, you're guilty of sin at that point. I mean, there's
Right.
no way to get out of it. Why are you paying for this? If it's just kind of there, and it's like, hey, it's like Pornhub or something, you got some amateur videos on there, maybe
Right.
that's your forte and that's where you want to go. Okay, but once you start paying to see those girls, paying to see girls that are nearby you, it is not that big of a step to send them a message and start hooking up on the weekends or whatever.
Not only that, but just go to the bar. Just if that's what you want to do, if that's your
Yeah, but
end
the
game,
bar takes so much
just
work.
so's the internet. The
No,
internet.
no, you just
Eventually got to meet up with them. Eventually, you just
You
said
gotta
this.
meet up with him, but when you meet up with him, you know what's gonna happen. You know what's going down. When you go to a bar, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. I've lived that life. It's fun for a couple years, and then it gets so old, so tiring. It's like, I don't want to play these games anymore. Do you want to do this or not? You don't? Okay, I'll go find some slutty broad that does. I don't care anymore. But
Just get on chat roulette.
anyways, so information was leaked. All the names are out there. If you're a cheater, you might want to just fess up now, because you're going to get busted. I'm sure there's going to be a website. Hell, I might make the website for women to go in and type the name and search it. Like, is my husband in there?
Compile a database of all the people.
Yeah, where you can narrow it down by like zip code, so that if they use like a nickname, you'll be like, that's his nickname. That's not. I know that's him. So.
Oh, that'd be crazy. So yeah, I mean, you know, what was the
Something about
reason?
conservatives.
By the way,
You were
what
looking.
was the reason?
The what?
What was the reasoning behind the hack in the first place? That's what I was. That's another thing.
Basically, they said that these people are pigs and scum, and they don't deserve anonymity.
Okay. So they did
Which
it as sort of
I
a
kind of agree with.
social activism sort of hack.
Yeah.
Activism, as they call it.
Yes.
Um,
Exactly.
Okay. But why do you? Were you so spited by somebody that did cheat that you now have to become an internet vigilante for your rest of your lifetime? Like, you're fucking internet Batman exposing everybody that's cheating out there. Like, what's the motivation? Like, oh, they're scumbags. Yeah, I say that about a lot of people, but I'm not gonna get on the internet and expose every scumbag I see. I just don't have the time nor the energy, you know. So
Right.
I'm not saying they're bad people for doing it, for hacking and a site like Ashley Madison. I'm just like, why devote that energy to it? Why? Well, they have like 13 million users or something on Ashley Madison. Some crazy giant number like
I
that.
have no idea, but they said they released 10 gigabytes of personal information, logins, and credit card information.
See, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
You could be a scumbag, but now people are gonna straight up just fucking take advantage of you financially. Come on. Republicans can agree when it comes to money.
More importantly, that company's dead now.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Nobody's going to trust it anymore. You cannot have a breach that massive, your entire database. You can't let that happen when your whole deal is anonymity. Like, everything you promised is gone. I'm not going to say it's their fault that people's lives are ruined, because obviously those people had a huge, like 99% part in that. But a lot of people's lives are going to be ruined because of this.
Well, the other thing is if you're resorting to a website to find an extramarital affair, chances are your life wasn't going in the direction you wanted it to go anyways. So maybe that's the
And that
catalyst.
small percentage, their lives are going to get a whole lot better.
Oh, yeah. They're gonna be like, yes, my side become my front lady, and you know, uh, my other basic ladies are on the back burner. So I did find that
ladies.
find that stuff about Jeb Bush that I wanted to talk about. Okay. So, come on, computer. Oh boy. McAfee, I hate you. Like, really?
Oh, that stuff's terrible. Uninstall that. McAfee is awful.
I've had it on here since this, because again, ladies and gentlemen, I got a new computer a while back, and it's straight up like it has McAfee on it. And
Go with AVG or Avast or whatever it is. If anybody has another suggestion for a lightweight, low CPU, effective antivirus, let me know. But I think I've been using AVG. Let me see if I can find it.
Okay. So there's been some controversy surrounding Jeb Bush and his time as governor in Florida. Okay. One of those things was that he refused to veto a bill requiring single mothers to publish their sexual history.
Hmm.
Uh, Most notably, it was called the statement originated with the Florida Adoption Act of 2001, more commonly known as Bill 141 or the Scarlet Letter Law. Of course, you can get the reference there of the Scarlet Letter of you had to read that book in school.
Yep.
What this did was it overhauled the state's adoption regulations with the stated goal of trying to provide greater finality once the adoption is approved, to avoid circumstances where future challenges to the adoption disrupt the life of the child. The bill was inspired in part by a 3-year-old fight over baby Emily, whose father, a convicted rapist, had contested her adoption. The Florida Supreme Court ruled in favor of Emily's adoptive parents. So the law, this Scarlet Letter, would require that any woman who was planning to put their infant up for adoption but did not know the identity of the child's father first had to run a newspaper advertisement once a week for a month in the community where the child might have been conceived, disclosing their names, ages, height, hair and eye color, race, weight, the child's name and the birthplace, a description of the possible father, and the details of the dates and places of sexual encounters that might have produced a child. So basically, it was a Craigslist ad that they would have to put out once a week for an entire month of, hey, are you my baby's daddy? And that's just the gist of the bill. Okay. Now, to be fair, of course, I'm getting this information from Snopes because I watched Bill Maher. I don't know if you watched it, but it was brought up on Bill Maher, the last episode, in regards to his record with women's rights, and one of them being this Scarlet Letter bill. So I decided to do some research. Snopes being the place that fact checks things for the most part. I mean, everybody knows Snopes.
Hmm.
So, okay. Now, what this says is, although Jeb Bush had previously lamented the lack of social stigma for having children outside of marriage, writing in his 1995 book, Profiles in Character, that one of the reasons more young women are giving birth out of wedlock and more young men are walking away from their paternal obligations is there is no longer a stigma attached to this behavior, no reason to feel shame. Even though he said this, he did not fully support or approve the Scarlet Bill, and said that the state should not be stigmatizing women. However, okay, he did veto that bill, right?
Yeah.
It pushed through. Let's see here. Okay, so Bush was he was pushing for fixes, but he didn't stop the bill from going through. But later in 2003, he did repeal the law, signing a replacement measure that instituted the paternity registration mentioned above. The repeal had become something of a moot issue by then, however, as an appeals court had ruled the previous month that it was unconstitutional for a state to require women and underage girls to disclose their sexual histories, even in cases of consensual sex.
Right.
So, he supported it, but he didn't support it. I figured I'd clear the record on that because there's a lot of stuff out there in regards to this particular issue because of the things he said in his book, and people going on Bill Maher and saying stuff like this. Ultimately, if you look at his records for abortion, he's done similar things to Mike Huckabee in regards to not letting people get abortions, especially in case of rape, so forth. Just look up his record, ladies and gentlemen. That's the big thing on this. But I figured I'd clear the air on that. Have you heard anything on that stuff, Scott?
Well, it was a big issue a couple weeks ago, but it's kind of died off. He has addressed it this in the last couple weeks, talking about it. I don't know if he blundered it or whatever. It was kind of a mute point. I didn't really pay attention to it, but
And of course, he got drowned out by fucking Trump. Jesus.
Yep. Still being drowned out by Trump. I mean, his fire has not died out yet. It's going to. It's getting there. You can kind of see the warning lights now where people are like, all right, we get the point. Now let's go back to talking like adults.
Right.
Um,
It's kind of
but
like when your friend has a joke that's funny like the first time, right? The first time he tells it, but then he tells it like 20 times, and you're like, okay, stop. Just it's not funny anymore, man. It's not funny.
yeah.
That Trump is that joke. You're like,
Well, I still agree with what he's saying. It's just now it's time to say something else. Every other look at Bernie Sanders. How many issues has he hit in the last month?
Man,
From
Bernie
Black
Sanders
Lives Matter to racial injustices or institutionalized racism. He talked
wealth
about
inequality.
wealth inequality. He talked about socialism. I mean, he's hit a plethora of issues. Trump has talked about the same issues he's been talking about since he announced his candidacy. That's
He has
boring.
no
That's not what we
plan.
need.
He has no plan.
Yeah.
He's just, excuse me, he's just complaining about things, and then people are going, yeah, I'm angry about that too. That's it. That's all that's happening. And then
Yeah,
once
so
people
what are we gonna
realize
do
that
about
he's
it?
no plan for it,
We're angry about the political correctness, so we all get out and we say fuck, shit, ass, cock, cunt, bitch, and then we go, oh, well, all right, well, I guess we can do a little bit of political correctness, because even at that, there's some things we shouldn't be saying. So,
right.
I don't know. We go back and forth on that one. Anyways, we are really going over time on this news thing. We still could get to a pretty big topic, so let's blow through some of these last ones, and
Okay.
we'll get into the topic of the night.
Ooh, sounds good to me. Of course, I heard about this, Scott, just moments before we started talking today, and Jared from Subway. We covered it I think a couple of weeks ago when it first started coming out about Jared being dropped from Subway because of allegations of child porn associated with a member of his or like a charitable organization. It was
Correct.
found with child porn, and he implicated Jared in that. Well, Jared is it's conflicting. I've seen some that say he's pleading or planning on pleading guilty to child porn, and I've seen some that say he's pled guilty. I don't know if it's just a delay and he's pled guilty, but let's just go with that. He's either pleading or pled guilty for child porn, which means he had a lot of child porn they found in his place.
Mm-hmm.
It's disturbing, right? Do you have another inspiration, another person that people look to that is now fallen? We had Bill Cosby, now we have Jared from Subway.
And the pedophiles that do this are always fat middle-aged guys in their 40s. Like, you can't help but notice this and think maybe they're pedophiles because they think that 16-year-olds are the only ones that will give them a chance because they've got a little bit of money. Because real women, their age, are
Right.
disgusted by them.
Yeah, because they realize they're like, okay. Um,
Fucking weird. Moving on.
yeah, weirdo. I think there's this weird psychological aspect. And of course, we could delve into there. Obviously, we don't have a lot of time for that, but just the bottom line, it's fucking gross. It's sick. It's disgusting. And the fact that he's again talking about the porn sites. If you go on any porn site, it's marketed on there. There's like underage, barely legal, things like that we have that is now vernacular in the discussion of pornography. That you could see how somebody would easily go down that road of what age is too young. Okay, uh, so it's deplorable. It's disgusting and it's sad. Because you have this guy who completely changed his life around. Jared was like immobile. He was so fat that he was like on the verge of like a lot of health problems. He was having a lot of issues. And have him turn that around to a successful speaking and sponsorship, it's only to be destroyed. Everything he built is now destroyed because of this. So why go down that road?
Yeah. Terrible. That's just. Anyways, moving on.
Okay.
Some news that at first is going to seem really exciting, and then you're like, oh. Pat Robertson, found unresponsive.
Right. Right.
That dude could not, like, I don't want to say I wish he would die, because that would be too blunt and to the point. So to be politically correct about it, I wish something
don't
would
wanna sound
happen
like a
that
monster.
would completely remove his ability to spew his hatred and nonsense to the millions of people that watch him.
Right. I don't want him to die. I want his television show to die. I want him to fall into obscurity. That's what I want.
Have you heard some of the comments that he's made?
Yeah.
Let me pull these up real quick.
While you're pulling that up, I'll give you one that I just recently read that infuriated me. It was one where he had a call in. This grandmother was upset that her you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
That her grandson didn't believe in God or Jesus because his dad told him that God wasn't real and blah blah blah, and hell is just made up to scare people, right? Which is what I would probably tell my kid, because I don't believe in all that junk, and that's not something a kid should be worried about. You know what I mean? So she was obviously worried for his soul and called in to Pat Robertson, and Pat Robertson said, enroll him in some Christian schools, okay? Get him some Christian Bible study. Put that fear of God in him type thing. Number one, just because you're a grandparent doesn't give you the right to just start enrolling your grandkids in things. No, you still have to go to the parent. It's their kid. So, sorry, Pat
Isn't that
Robertson.
the one that he said to beat the fear of God into them?
Yeah. Well, no, it's more or less.
No, there was one where he literally said to beat the fear of God into your children. Which was completely absurd. But, I think we lost Jimmy. We have lost Jimmy. Jimmy, no. Jimmy, no. Well then, this is... Oh, there's another... We have two Jimmys on the call. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was weird.
Alright.
Yeah, my call got dropped apparently, so I missed a little bit of what was going on there. So sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
Say Jimmy, no. All right, so yeah, he was saying to beat the fear of God into your kids, but he also called the earthquakes in Haiti a blessing in disguise, because the people of Haiti made a pact with the devil during the French Revolution.
Okay.
He says
plausible scenario.
Chuck Norris, when he's doing his pre-workout breathing exercises, that he's inhaling demon spirits, and then he wards off the audience from having anything to do with that type of stuff.
What?
Pat Robertson does a ward to protect them from Chuck Norris's demon spirits.
I haven't heard that one. That was crazy.
God told him about some terrorist attacks that would happen at the end of the year, killing possibly millions of people. Millions! Yeah, it didn't really happen. But,
go figure.
He doesn't support yoga. He thinks that's the devil. He thinks... He relates... his views on gay marriage relates it to polygamy, bestiality, child molestation, and pedophilia, which... We could go into that later. Oh, this might be the one. No, I thought I was going to say to beat the gay out of a kid. But anyways, stupid, 1920s, you could get away with saying shit like that. In 2015, you can't. You sound like the crazy old kook that you are. So at least his show is off the air for a little bit. Thank God. Thank the Jesus.
We're going to pray the Pat Robertson away. Oh, man. That guy, of course, we were going to go into the whole John Oliver thing. But these people, they have this idea that their religiosity gives them the right to do whatever, i.e., tell you how to live your life, tell you to pay them lots of money as tithing or donations to their cause, buy a jet with that money, just despicable things. So, sending missionaries over to Kenya to squash homosexuality from occurring in Kenya to the point where they're killing people that are gay in Kenya, right? Putting them to death just because their lifestyle is different than yours. That's your doing, and you did it because you believe it's justifiable under your religion, your ideology.
Yes,
Ridiculous. And Pat Robertson is certainly in that bunch.
he is. Before we move too far, we're going to back up to the beginning of the episode when you were talking about conservatives versus liberals.
Okay.
And what gets me, and I think there's a very clearly defined difference, and I'm sure I'm going to offend the conservatives when I say this, but I identify as liberal and as an atheist and as a lover of science because I'm open to new ideas, new ways of viewing things. I'm open to discussion.
Did you just say new ways of doing things?
New
Because
ways of doing things.
oy vey, that's up my alley.
Doing things, viewing things, different perspectives on life.
Okay.
Because that's how you grow, that's how you change, that's how you evolve. And I
Right.
think that a lot of the people in the liberal crowd really revolve around that type of mentality that we're open to discussion, we're open to change, we're open to learning, why stuff happens and having actual scientific proof to back it. And we're so opposite of conservatives because the conservative message is not sophisticated. The conservative message is the equivalent of doing something at your job just because that's the way it's always been done. You don't ask questions, you don't try to find a better way to do it, you just do it the way that great-great-great-grandpappy did, and that's good enough for you. Forget the fact that the entire world has evolved around you, but it's just not sophisticated. It doesn't want to evolve. It doesn't want to change. It doesn't want anything. And that is why, as we progress and the world becomes more liberal, conservatives consistently find themselves on the wrong side of these arguments. They're on the wrong side of women's rights. They were on the wrong side of black rights. They're on the wrong side of gay rights. Because they don't want to change. They want to do things as they have always been done, and they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to hear your opinion. That's my beef with conservatism.
Right. And it's largely, there are moderate conservatives that I've met some fairly educated, fairly open-minded, if you will, conservatives before that have had I've had discussions with them that even I've had to step back and go, okay, maybe you got some points, maybe you got some valid stuff here. But with that being said, the internet, Scott, the internet is so widespread. You can get whatever information you want, and you have this brand of conservatism, like the Donald Trumps, that they get their news, they get their information from these Tea Party tribunes that come out, these little news website journal things that say things like the president's Kenyan, that he's an Islamic terrorist, stuff like that. And they're not getting it from a cited, approved source. You know what I mean? And they don't care. They don't care that they're not getting it from that because they think the liberal media, that the media is apparently partisan, and media is out to get them and mislead them. So the only people that are giving them the real information are these people, which leads them to a wide variety of suggestions like Jade Helm 15, which is going on right now. And guess what? We're not rounding you up and putting you in the FEMA death camp. So if that's not taking place, then that theory is debunked, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what I hate. There is no compromise. There is no reasoning with insanity. And with extreme conservative mindset, it is insanity. Some of the stuff that you believe is insane, and you can't reason with it. There's no educated response that you could have that involves something that's not sourceable, it's not citable. It's ludicrous. You know what I mean? There has to be some base in fact. Even in the most slanted, if you were to go to Fox News, right, they say a lot of hyperbolic bullshit, right? A lot of slanted garbage. But even then, even their crazy is slightly based in some sort of You can find the pattern of thinking that's got him to there, right? I don't understand
Regardless
it.
of how flawed it may be en route.
Right. And you make a good point, Scott. I know I kind of been dumb. You got me on a rant, man. I'm on the warpath, but you raised an interesting point of how you identify yourself. You identify yourself as liberal because a lot of the policies and ideas that conservatives put forth, there's no how to put it.
They're tried and failed policies.
Right.
It's just new versions of the same old crap that didn't work.
Right. They're, building a fence to keep the Mexicans out. Come on. But then complaining because he had nobody to pick his strawberries. Including Donald Trump, who had undocumented workers working on his buildings. Okay? The guy who's supposed to be the champion of the conservative movement.
We've talked about that. I can't put the blame on Trump on that one.
Yeah, but I mean, still. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
To a certain extent. I mean, come on.
So we're going to watch a video real quick, which I've got to pull up again.
Okay, we're going into the...
because this is a good segue into it. And
okay.
Just to set this up, this is a discussion on a bill being proposed in 2012 in Springfield. I don't know which Springfield. The city of Springfield. It's a city council meeting, and it.
I hope it's the one from The Simpsons.
No. They debated a new rule adding LGBT people to the list of minorities protected from discrimination, and a preacher gets up to give his view on it. And tell me if you can hear this when I play it. Can you hear anything? Nope.
Yeah, I can't hear it.
Okay, so let's try this then. Can you hear it? Can you hear it now?
I don't. Yeah, it seems to be frozen at my end.
Yeah, because I paused it. Did you hear anything up to that point, though?
No.
Do you hear anything now?
No.
Okay, let's do it the old-fashioned way then.
Okay.
Born and raised in Springfield, Missouri.
Okay, I can hear.
I stand before you this evening in support of this ordinance. I worry about the future of our city. Any accurate reading of the Bible should make it clear that gay rights goes against the plain truth of the Word of God. As one preacher warns, man in overstepping the boundary lines God has drawn by making special rights for gays and lesbians has taken another step in the direction of inviting the judgment of God upon our land.
Okay.
This step of gay rights is but another stepping stone toward the immorality and lawlessness that will be characteristic of the last days. This ordinance represents a denial of all that we believe in, and no one should force it on us. It's not that we don't care about homosexuals, but it's not our rights will be taken.
No, just wait. It gets better.
Be forced on us and our children, for we would be forced to go against our personal morals. Outside government agents are endeavoring to disturb God's established order. It is not in line with the Bible. Do not let people lead you astray. The liberals leading this movement do not believe the Bible any longer, but every good, substantial, Bible-believing, intelligent, Orthodox Christian can read the Word of God and know what is happening is not of God. When you run into conflict with God's established order, you have trouble. You do not produce harmony. You produce destruction and trouble, and our city is in the greatest danger that it has ever been in its history. The reason is that we have gotten away from the Bible of our forefathers. You see, the right of segregation...
Now, I'm going to pause it here. Now, up to this point, everything he's saying is the typical conservative rhetoric on gay rights, right?
Correct. I'm on board with that assumption.
Gays,
I think I rolled my eyes once or twice.
Hang on.
the right of segregation is clearly established by the Holy Scriptures, both by precept and example.
1 minute.
I'm sorry, I brought the wrong notes with me this evening. I've brought my argument from the wrong century. It turns out what I've been reading to you this whole time are direct quotes from white preachers from the 1950s and the 1960s, all in support of racial segregation. All I have done is simply take out the phrase racial integration and substituted it with the phrase gay rights. I guess the arguments I've been hearing around Springfield lately sounded so similar to these that I got them confused. I hope you will not make the same mistake. I hope you will stand on the right side of history. Thank you.
Well played, sir. I was not expecting that M. Night Shyamalan of a twist.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was watching it. The first time when I watched it today, you know, you get to that point up to where he says segregation, and it's like, oh, it's just the same bullshit again. It just facepalm, and then he switched that. I was like, okay.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. That was good. That was good. I was planning on disputing. I thought we were going to discuss the craziness of this, and I was planning on disputing everything he said, but I think he summed it up pretty nicely.
No, that it goes into a good transition because it shows the similarities between the movements that have happened, be it women's rights, black rights, gay rights, transgender rights now, Muslim rights, I'm sure is going to be the next one, any other type of segregation that we've imposed on our society, that we always have these same arguments. And at some point, when you're looking at these, you have to ask yourself if there's a bigger question. Are we merely treating the symptoms of the problem rather than the problems itself? And I would venture that the answer is yes. We are treating the symptoms of inequality. But the problem is, in our society, and in every society that has ever existed, inequality is a cornerstone of the foundation of society. Inequality was established in the very first written and recorded law that we have, the Code of Hammurabi. It also established inequality because it established an upper, middle, and lower class. There is always going to be someone who is superior to you in some way. They have a nicer house, they have a nicer car, they have kids that behave better. There is always something that you can do to look at somebody else and say, I'm less than them. I want to be on the same plane as them. But you're not doing that because you want to get up there and say, all right, well, we're all truly equal now. Nobody is doing that. Because if that were the case, we wouldn't be having these arguments again. We wouldn't be having instances like the Reverend Bill Owens, who is a frequent contributor on some of these websites, who brags about his time with Martin Luther King Jr., protesting and demonstrating and getting arrested to call attention to the issue of black rights, who then 50 years later uses those same tactics to discriminate against gay people. There is no search for full equality. It is a search so that you can be on that superior plane so you can discriminate against everybody else so long as you're not being discriminated against. That's all it comes down to. And this is so ingrained in our society. It's keeping up with the Joneses. Everybody wants to be better than everybody else. We have sports events where we crown one team champion and make 30 losers out of everybody else. There is that kind of epitomizes the 1% when it comes to wealth. They are the people that have won this game of life. Everybody else is just trying to catch up. So long as we operate like that, so long as we value accomplishment above everybody else, instead of actually treating everyone truly as equal, there will always be segregation and discrimination. We will always come back to these arguments about who doesn't have the same equal rights as everybody else. We're never going to get away from this. And I wish I had a solution, because I'm just as guilty about it as anybody else is. You know, we all go out and drive around, and we may pass a part of town where you turn your nose up. I don't want to live there. I wouldn't be there, because you feel like you're better than the people that are in there. You don't want to lower yourself to that standard. like I said, I don't have the solution. I wish I do. I would venture to say that the next 100 generations are not going to have the solution, that this is going to be a perpetual problem. We're not in a place to have full equality. So let's stop dressing it up and saying that we want equal rights. You don't want equal rights. You just want to be on the same playing field as the people who are viewed as superior, so you can discriminate against everybody else. So you can get on board. That's all it is.
Wow. There's a lot to swallow. I think you have a lot of validity to what you're saying. I think certainly, I mean, historically that's been the case, right? Once Christians were discriminated against in the Roman times, then the Christians were doing the discrimination.
Right.
It's the story of our time is who is being oppressed by whom. Okay. With that being said, I think that a lot of the reason why that we have this behavior is two reasons. One is that specifically with our culture in Western society is we have placed a value on materialism as a means of quantifying your own success. A means of it's a tangible way, a trophy on the shelf of showing everybody that you are successful, right? Look at all the stuff I have. Look at all the money I have in an effort to buy more stuff. Now, I will be the first one to never knock anybody for making it. Okay? If you found something that you are successful at enough to make a ton of money, whatever, I'm not going to harp on you for that. What I will harp on it is when it is ill-gotten wealth because it is at the disadvantage of somebody less fortunate than you. If you, in an effort to make money, you then stand on the shoulders of somebody else that clearly will never achieve the same status as you. That's the problem that we see. For the most part, I agree. I think that our society has become a society where we're all about how to get equality, but we'll never achieve that because we fail to miss that very important thing is that when we're seeking equality, we're not seeking equality. It's kind of like the Irish need no apply here, right? From the 1800s. Then the Irish became accepted, and then they started hating on the Chinese. You know what I mean? It's which flavor are you going to hate this time? I think that eventually that sort of behavior is going to be more than detrimental to our way of life. Again, I mentioned materialism being one of the issues that make this so ingrained in our society. The other aspect is that we have a society that applies labels to everything. We apply labels to everything. We don't look for commonality in things as much as we look for differences. Apples to oranges, black to white. We look for the aspects of people that drive that individuality. And because of that...
Well, like one of our commanders used to say, it takes 10 attaboys to make up for one oh shit.
Right. That's funny. But so that's the thing, all right, is that we as individuals, we look at somebody else and we see a distinct difference between ourselves and that person. Now, through our own inadequacies as our own individual self, and again, this is my thoughts, my theory, you can feel free to disagree with me if you want, but when we look at another person and we see these differences, and then we apply our own inadequacies, we don't look for the things that are similar to us. We look for the things that we are potentially better at than them because we want to feel superior to them. You know what I mean? And it's because of our own personal inadequacy.
Right, and that's the built-in
Right.
I'm throwing the label discrimination on it, which may be a little harsh, honestly,
Right.
but you get the point that it's
Oh,
our
yeah,
own
yeah, yeah, yeah.
built-in discrimination as part of simply being a part of the society that we have established over the past 10,000 years.
Right. Now, the difference is that through our own inadequacies, and we see these flaws, these apparent flaws in other people, because it's almost like, that girl is less pretty than I am, so therefore I must be better. You know what I mean? That sort of
Right.
mentality. Uh, is that right there is inherent in our nature. Got it. But we need a system that reflects better than that. That is the reason for laws. That is the reason for society, civilized society, is to portray the individual as something better than it is, to uphold the law. All right. Naturally, uh, nature is brutal. There's murder, there's death, there's killing, there's discrimination, there's greed, there's hatred, there's all these things that are in the natural world. The natural state of existence is brutal. So we create a system to better that, right?
Right.
So when it comes to equality, yes, we may be ingrained with this natural discrimination of this and that and blah, 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 blah. But the only way that we're going to get past that is to accept the commonalities of people. Okay? To accept, okay, you're black, I'm white, you're Chinese, I'm Scandinavian, whatever. You have all these different things. But until we all have the same, all have that same opportunity, you know what I mean? That same level playing field. The problem is society didn't start equal. And so how do you then get it to be equal? You know what I mean?
I guess the flip side is do we really want equality? Because like you said, nature and survival is brutal. It's harsh. It is survival of the fittest for a reason. You don't get to be the fittest by simply participating. You don't get a participation trophy for trying to survive. You either survive or you don't. You either make it or you die. That's what it comes down to. So if we were to establish equality where there is no competition, where there is no warring between anybody, where there is no discord or anything like that, where everybody was truly equal in every aspect, that you could just live your life and not have to worry about how it compares to anything else. Again, a purely hypothetical society, because I don't frankly see us ever being there, ever,
Right.
in any time period.
Oh, I believe you. I believe you're correct.
Because I don't know that true equality is a good thing. I think it would make us weak, and I think that due to the laws of survival of the fittest, we would not survive. True equality would be our extinction.
Well, here's a thought for you, Scott. As I was trying to get out that materialism and how we place value on material goods as a status symbol. Now, the reason for this is that we have resources within our world that are finite. There are resources that not everybody is going to have the same amount of resources. A person that lives in Dubai is not going to have the same resources as somebody in Portland, Oregon. Okay, so because of that, inherently, nature itself can never be equal. When we get past that, though, if we can propel technology, right, and bear with me here, if we can propel technology that everybody has access, they may not have the same things, but has access to the same everything. If we create that level playing field right there, that everybody has the same access to it, okay, forget about oppression through institutionalized racism, all that stuff, gone. Everybody has the same amount of resources, everybody has the same amount of laws applied to them, everybody has that basic need right there, okay? If everybody has access to that same thing, right, the idea about competition, okay, always wanting to get the leg up, whatever, right there. If we all have access to it, there's still going to be no necessity for that anymore. The reason why we have that built in is because of the need to survive, right? the more stable your life is because of how successful you are in nature. How if you have the most food, if you have the most, if you have the best shelter, all these things were because you needed it to survive. We've now translated that to material goods and resources. That's why we have the geoeconomic and geopolitical climate that we have. Now, like I said, if we create that even playing field, it then takes that thing that we're worrying about, which is competing with each other, and now focuses on working together for what's next. That's what I'm getting at. Is yes, the competition between ourselves may perhaps dissipate, but or the competition against each other, competition with each other may dissipate, but our competition with ourselves would then increase. Of course, I always look at things through the scope and lens of Star Trek, but look at that society. They have a machine that can materialize a product, anything they want. Anything they can imagine is at their very fingertips. And there's not even money in Star Trek, by the way, when it comes to the United Federation. There's no money. So you just get whatever you want. Okay. So because of that, they've diverted that energy, that competition, into the pursuit of knowledge and intellect and culture. The cultural boom that could occur from that is where I would see it going. So I think that the equality is achievable only at the expense of our materialistic and discriminatory tendencies. If we can somehow get past that, right, then we can move to a truly equal society.
Right, because I would venture that the materialism is 95% of the motivation behind crime. Why do you steal something?
Right.
Because you want that thing, whatever it is, that
right.
Materialism at its finest.
Even in the basic need of needing money in order to buy basic essential stuff like food. Okay,
right. Exactly.
You're still stealing a material object in an effort for your own somewhat personal gain, which is survival.
And even if you look at violent offenses, murder and crime, it's very rarely is it a random act where it's just somebody just wanted to kill somebody. The vast majority of the time, that's motivated by something. They did something that you didn't like, or somehow some type of materialism comes in there, whether you're doing the killing for money, whether you're doing it because they took something from you, physically or emotionally, whatever it is. If we could eliminate that, that is the only way I think we could really get to a society that has no guns, that has no violence, that has no need for a police force or an army or anything like that.
To a certain extent, if you're a libertarian out there, or an individual that wants small government, you want small intervention into your lives, you should be pushing for this. You should be pushing for things like social programs and things to alleviate the inequality that takes place within our society. Because those are the very things that are going to get you the lack of intervention that you want. Because when you have a society that has a higher quality of life, higher quality of living, right? Everybody has what they need. Everybody has what they want. The crime rate goes down, like you're saying, because you all have it. You know what I mean? Then you have time to pursue the things, like I said, cultural, intellectual pursuits. That's why education is important. It's the future. Yeah, but then that raises the question: would knowledge become the currency? Because we're so monetized in our society of a post-currency or a post-monetary world. What would then take the place? What would fill that void?
That's an interesting question that can be answered next time, because we are over time by quite a good little bit.
Wow.
So it's a good discussion.
And that's partly my fault. I kind of delved off into Star Trek and happy hippy-dippy type shit, Scott.
It's all good. But another successful episode. For those of you that are curious why this is a little bit later than normal, not that I think we've actually established any type of consistent release schedule, we are moving to Tuesday nights for recording because it's just easier for both of us and less stressful, and we can actually focus the time into the show that needs to be focused.
Oh, no kidding. I think Tuesday's going to be better. Like we keep saying, we're college students. I know Scott's wrapping up his.
3 weeks.
Yeah,
bitches.
He sees the light at the end of the tunnel. I have a little bit longer to go. But
It's so bad at this point that I'm looking at my assignments and the point values next to them, going, I don't need to do that one. I can pass without that.
No, man. The choice of every college student. Is this assignment worth my time?
Like, I'm waiting for the grades to come out for last week on this humanities class, because I'm in the very last week right now. So as soon as the grades come out with week 4, I'll know where I'm at and what, if I were to not do anything in week 5, what I would finish with. And so long as it's better than the 60, which I think I would already have like a 70, close to an 80 actually. So
not bad.
I might not do anything this week in one of those classes.
Yeah, and that's definitely one of those things. It's when you're that close towards the end. The senioritis is the real sort of thing, ladies and gentlemen. With that, if you are curious, if you want to know more about this discussion, which was the illusion of equality, per Scott's guidance and direction here, he has a very interesting post that will be up on the Polypompous website at www.polypompous.com.
I'll have that posted tomorrow. I'm going to add a little bit more to it tonight based on our discussion. So.
Awesome, cool deal. So yeah, that'll be the illusion of equality. I also have just posted a blog entry about the Fermi complex or Fermi paradox. The Fermi paradox, which of course is in reference to whether intelligent life is out there, so forth. It's really interesting. I'm also planning on doing another blog. It should be coming out here in the next couple of days in regards to neuroscience, believe it or not. I have some interesting stuff on that. So if you've heard of Phineas Gage, if you've heard that name, and there's going to be a lot of that information in there. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I ain't got much more to say other than tweet us at Polypompous. Scott was just admiring my tweetability, and I've been up on the Twitter. I have been slacking on my Sinful Sandwich Sunday, my hashtag, which, again, it's totally open to anybody who wants to do it. It's hashtag Sinful Sandwich Sunday. What it is taking the focus away from God on Sundays, okay, and applying it to the sinful art of sandwich making. It's real simple. All you do, make a sandwich on Sunday or buy a sandwich on Sunday and tweet it to us at Polypompous with the hashtag Sinful Sandwich Sunday. And we'll look at it and we'll put a little star on it and go, bickety bam, that's one fucking tasty looking sandwich. So with that, man, I just want to say I love each and every one of you, and have yourself a week.
I will close with a slightly different line than normal. Thoughts go out to Morgan Freeman and his family as their step-granddaughter was stabbed to death this week in front of her apartment at 33 years old, which is really tragic. So thoughts out to Morgan Freeman and his family. And,
condolences for sure. I totally, man, now you make a fucking asshole.
And ending on a somber tone, but take care. Keep thinking.